Welcome to Kentucky Fried Mashup with Duke Money and Magic Mike.
King Kong ain't got shit on me.
We just some country boys, country walk, country talk.
Let's get it.
Welcome back, y'all. Kentucky Fried Mashup is in the house. We appreciate y'all tuning in. This is episode 8. We got a doozy for y'all. But before we get into that, you know what we do on this show. You never know what you're going to get. Straight up mashup, politics, current events, news, sports. But you're going to have a little bit of that today, just in the intro. But then we're going to get into our political topic today. But we got some things going on in Kentucky, Money. What's going on back home?
Yeah, we it's been rain, Mike. It's been a lot of rain, and we've even had some people lose their lives, and
I saw six people lost their lives to the flooding, man. So and
it's really bad, y'all. I mean, it's really, really bad.
Condolences to those folks, the families that lost a loved one. Heart goes out to you, and and then which this is more, this isn't about life and death. But the Thunder over Louisville was also canceled, which is the opening ceremony for the Kentucky Derby Festival.
Yeah.
Which is the big shindig of Louisville, right?
Yeah, that's what we're the big money maker, y'all.
Big money maker.
That's the big money, and they canceled it, so it lets you know how serious things are.
Yeah, well, no, not Derby wasn't canceled, but Thunder over Louisville was. But it's still there's over 100,000 people that come from out of town just to watch the fireworks show and the air show. So we got jets, helicopters, we got the whole thing. Drones now, which the drone show is phenomenal. Right, so if you haven't seen Thunder over Louisville, definitely check it out. You can see clips on YouTube of past Thunder over Louisville's. But if you get a chance, go see it in person because it's a beautiful show. And I'll be honest, I think the drones are now my favorite part of it. To be honest with you, the fireworks are great and all, but the drones are because they can do anything with them, man. They can make pictures in the sky or whatever. It's pretty wild.
The air show is great, y'all. I mean, I just have to say it and like I said, I can't reiterate. That's a big money maker, and for them to cancel it, that shows it's just been raining day after day.
That's how bad it is for them to cancel.
Water's rising.
Yes.
I mean,
but let's get to our topic for this week. So we are talking about China, y'all. Friend or foe? Is China a friend or foe? And should we be building stronger relationships with them rather than creating animosity towards them? Right, which seems what our current political landscape is towards China. I don't know about you, Money, but I feel like China's almost like being a scapegoat, the boogeyman. Like everybody's blaming China for what's going on, and I don't necessarily think it's all China's fault. What you think?
All administrations, and this one in particular, make China a foe, and I believe that we should have a respectful relationship with China. Might not be friends, but a respectful relationships where we both can benefit because China's a superpower just like we're a superpower. So in that regard, I think that China should be a friend.
So you think we need a
respectful friend? We
need a mutually beneficial relationship with them.
Yeah.
Which, we got to look at some things because China is our fourth largest trading partner, right?
Yeah.
So we got European Union number 1, then we got Mexico, Canada, and China falls in at 4. So would it be wise to have good relationships with your largest trading partners? I mean, I would have to say yes. It only makes sense.
Absolutely. And if you look at what's going on, Mike, it's getting obvious the effect that having a bad relationship with China because the reciprocal tariffs and playing those games going back and forth, that causes our economy. And I mean, this is for everybody, the working people, because the stock market, it takes a
big
hit.
Big hits
and,
right now.
And even if you don't pay attention to things like that, somehow if you're a working individual, somehow you are affiliated with the stock market, whether it be 401k or whether it be the shareholders at the company you work, which that can lead to things if money's not
layoffs.
Right, right. And so somehow that's affecting it, and it specifically when our relationship with China is not in a good place, it affects that immediately.
Yeah. Which I mean, China is, whether we want to accept it or not, they are a global power. I would say, like they're up there with the United States now, if you ask me. Maybe they haven't caught up completely militarily, but you know, when it comes to technology and everything, they're doing it all. They're leading in AI. They're leading in their automobiles have drastically gotten better. There's so many areas where they're getting better at, and I personally, and I've said this for a long time, that China's not the biggest threat to us. I mean, I think we could be great, have strong relationships with China. To me, Russia is still the issue, and just to point something out, historically, I don't know. Correct me, any listeners that are listening to this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not believe throughout history there has ever been a war between major trading partners, because it's just not beneficial to either country. Because if we go to war with each other, it's going to create a huge deficit in our economy, where that trade is not going to be happening anymore. And could you imagine if we went to war with China and we didn't get all the goods from them that we do, and also sell what we do? Even though there is a trade deficit, I know that's something that the administration likes to point out, but you got to think, China can't afford all the things that America makes. That's one thing, you know, because even though they have advanced and they have a larger middle class than they did, say, 20 years ago, you know, they still don't have the money to be paying what it costs for American-made products.
Yeah, and vice versa. The things that we get are so low because of the labor over there and the factories that we have over there. Because the labor is a lot less, when we get it, we pay less. With these with reciprocal tariffs and things, okay, that means whether something's going out or coming in, it raises everything up for both sides. So if you getting something, are you getting a lot imported from somewhere else, it's automatically going to be a difference in, you know, a deficiency kind of, because you get more from them. But look at what you having to pay because the labor is so cheap. So we're benefiting off of that, you know, and they don't need as much from us because a lot of stuff is being made over there. So that means that they can get it, and then we need it too. And I know that you hear things, especially in this administration, talk about bringing manufacturing back. And that's, you know, I understand, and I could see where, you know, the goal is, but
I think that sounds good to the middle class. That's a kind of a talking point that I think attracts a lot of people, because there's a lot of cities and towns across America that have been negatively affected by companies outsourcing and going to China, which that's something that I think that's not China's fault. I think sometimes people like, it's like China pulled these people away from America. They didn't. It's just that their labor's cheaper and people are greedy, and American corporations have decided we want larger profits, so we're going to go to China where the labor's cheaper and then sell the stuff back in the United States. So it's not just China's fault, y'all. It is corporations and greed that has kind of led to a lot of those losses in manufacturing.
Absolutely. And you have to think about it also in terms of numbers, because when we're able to export something to China, you know, the it's a lot more people. So it can be purchased a lot. But if it's tariffs going in and out, that means everything, no matter which way it's going, is going to be more expensive. So then it gets to the point where you limiting the money that and I'm going to say Magnificent Seven. If y'all don't know what that is, that's the top 7 companies on the stock market, like Apple's one. Okay, you want people to buy iPhones. So if you making it to where the iPhone is high going out because you got all the manufacturers over here, so everything going out has got these high tariffs on it. So then it's going to be like, well, we're not going to buy that because it's too high. You know, maybe the iPhone goes up double. So now you're limiting the money that they can make because of the tariffs, and then everything's over here being manufactured. And I'm not saying that's a good thing to have manufacturing over here, but in some things you have to actually think it all the way through, not just make a the order of the deal. I'm trying to negotiate. Some things have to actually be thought through to the end. Let people look at it that know what they're doing, and then make a decision.
Yeah.
Instead of just winging it.
Yeah, and since you mentioned that though too, like the manufacturer, say if it is brought back to America, which that's supposedly what the tariffs ultimately are going to do with China, and well, not just China, but other countries as well. But since we are focusing on China, but it's funny because I was watching the stand-up of Dave Chappelle, and he mentioned, he's like, if you bring back manufacturing to America, an iPhone is going to cost $9,000. So it's going to be that's probably an exaggeration, but it's still going to be a lot more than what it is.
Right.
And then you also mentioned the art of the deal, which is funny because I believe we should be friends with China because they came up with the book The Art of War. So they are very versed in the art of war, and war, people always think it's just guns and bombs and everything, but the art of war actually goes deep into deception and how to defeat your enemy without even fighting. That is the ultimate art of war, and the Chinese came up with that.
And you talked about stuff earlier that was it was deep because China's not Snow White by any means, so and we're not Snow White either by any means. And you were talking about things like espionage and things like that's real, and so all that has to be kept in check. So when the term friend is used, it's more of a business relationship because you still need to keep your guards up and make sure nobody's doing above and beyond what they should be doing and keep things in check. But as far as having a business relationship to where things going in and out, and I'll give you an example just because Mike said what Chappelle said, and that was funny because that exaggeration lets you see that, okay, it'll just be an astronomical price. This is just, going on as we speak. China's like put 84% tariffs on us, and then the administration put 125% tariffs on China. So what that means is, say the iPhone is, I'm just gonna say 1,500, 125%. That's like 3,000 and something. Just from that, and now you got to think, what are people gonna do? You're gonna start saying, well, that's too high. So now you're gonna look for alternatives, and then what's gonna be a cheap alternative? Most likely something from China. So it's kind of like almost backfiring. It could be
Taiwan or
Taiwan,
Vietnam, like it's
somewhere
some
other
than
than.
Which is, but again, if you bring the manufacturing of that phone to America, it's going to be even more than what you'd be paying for in some of these other countries. So
think about that. Just from the people you have to pay, the phone is going to go up automatically. Just period, without then throw tariffs on there. Now it's like, oh my. Then people start looking for alternatives.
Yeah, which I would be okay with bringing manufacturing back to America. Okay, I'm not against it, just to be clear. But the thing that people need to understand is, if those come back to America, those goods are going to cost more, and will corporations and businesses raise people's wages? Because that's the only way we'll be able to afford these things. Our wages are going to have to go up because they've stagnated for the last 30, 40 years. I think it's on average, the salary's only gone up like 18% overall. Yeah. Whereas the executive pay has gone up astronomical, like 350% or something crazy, like maybe even more than that. But, something's got to give. So if those jobs come back, in order for us, average Americans, middle-class Americans, to be able to afford these products, we're going to have to be paid more. Because people are already struggling now.
I want to say, because I keep mentioning Apple, it's because everybody knows, the iPhone. So, but I'm just using that example. Say, for instance, a Toyota car. How many Toyota cars do you see riding around over here in America? And how good is a Toyota? You ask Americans, they're going to say Toyota's going to get 250, 300,000 miles. So the car is good. You know what I mean? It's not, okay, so all of that type of stuff. I just say that to get away from iPhones, but all of that type of stuff is going to suffer, and it's going to make it to the point where people, one thing about people, they will find alternatives.
Oh, yeah. And out of necessity because of finances, right? We don't have enough to spend on this. Not everybody can afford designer clothes and the most expensive cars. that's a select few of people. That's some of the lucky few. But the average American is struggling right now.
Yes.
Grocery bills
Especially
already high.
It's and I'm just saying eggs. That's farming, but China just has it to where I think the last time this administration was in, it was with farming, and China has supply chains, the technology. It was just something that was rivaling our AI. They, agriculture. I mean, it's just I think it would be better to have a good business relationship with China that helps all of us, because since we're the big dogs, we can start to make a cohesive decision for everybody else instead of just one entity thinking, well, I'm gonna make the decisions for everybody, when that leverage is not there like that anymore.
Yeah, and instead of having like a bipolar political landscape, so like for example during the Cold War, so when I say bipolar, I mean we had the Soviet Union and we had the United States as the two most powerful countries, and we were going at it, maybe not head to head, but in the proxy wars and espionage and all this stuff going on. But China it could be our partner, to where we're not polar opposites and we're not competing and fighting against each other necessarily. But I mean, competing, yes, but not fighting and not being at each other's throats. We could be making some better trade deals with them, because Xi Jinping, I mean, I believe he's a pragmatic person. Now, personally, I don't like the communist rule, because I want to be able to elect my leaders. I don't like that about China. But in some ways, that is a benefit for China, because, like, for example, with the tariffs, Xi Jinping can decide not to give in on the trade war because he don't have to answer to the voters. So even if the Chinese people start struggling for a while, there's nothing they can do, to change who's in power. Whereas if things are real bad in America, in the next 4 years, somebody new is going to come in and replace them. And I think that's how it should be. I believe in democracy. But the thing is, China has liberalized their economy, so they're not completely a communist country anymore. People can own private businesses, because a purely communist country, the state owns everything, and everybody gets the same amount of pay. But that's not how China is anymore. They got a middle class. They've got all kinds of, they got rich people as well, billionaires. So it's not like it used to be, but there are no elections, so there is no, changing who the leaders are. So they have that luxury of riding out the tariffs, is what I'm saying.
Just what you're talking about, that is, see, when you get to touching on that, because that's a very difficult subject, because, the same type of arguments can be made about capitalism. There's nothing that's perfect. There's nothing. I mean, a person who's against it could find so many flaws in it. It's very unfair, very uneven. And the person could look at, like, say, socialism, more what I would say when you was describing China, where things are even. Somebody could have, so those type of things, that's a very it's almost like religion. But like you said, if we get along with each other, you do you, I do me, but the common good for both of our countries, we gonna focus on that, and then like you say, what you doing over here, you do. What I'm doing over here, I do. We keep an eye on each other. But as far as business goes, we can really make it to where it's a prosperous thing for everybody. Not just not just you barking out orders, not just me barking out orders, but both of us as a unit making things around the world move a certain way where everybody's benefiting from the from the lowest to the highest.
And something we gotta not forget is that because in the 1980s, China was nothing compared to what they are today. They were still almost like an agrarian society. Majority of the people lived in the countryside. They were farmers, and this is just back in the 80s, right? But we created China. We created China. Right? Reagan in the early 1980s, he pushed for companies to, seek opportunities overseas. And that's when you started seeing a lot of the manufacturing jobs leaving America. That started in the 80s. I shouldn't say started. I believe it started in the 70s under Nixon, but it happened more under Reagan. It started speeding up.
And this is something that, because I just looked at my little notes, and this is a stat to let you know what the topic we're coming at. You know, friend or foe. This administration has paused tariffs on everybody and gathered a universal 10%, but raised tariffs on China to 125%. That's a clear message of what you think of somebody. Foe. You see what I'm saying? So that's where and then when you start doing that type of stuff, you sending clear messages.
Yeah.
It's hard to repair relationships when you start doing that type of,
it's
that type of thing.
It's harder to rebuild a bridge that you done burned,
Yes.
So, and that's why, I just think that China is building up to a point where they are, gonna be a superpower, if not already a superpower. Yeah. I think you could probably say they are now. Why would we want to go head to head with them in this world with the weapons that we have? It would be a terrible war, and it would affect the entire globe because China. We're not the only trading partner with China. It would affect other countries that are getting goods. Like there'd be if the United States and China ever went to war, there would be famine across this globe.
Yeah. You have to strategically do things. That's why I say you have to think things out. It's good to want America to be the best. It's good to want trading to be even and for everybody to prosper and not to take the short end. But at the same time, you have to do things strategically so that you don't do things like, well, I'm going to lower tariffs on everybody else and keep them high on you. That's not strategic. That's a direct shot to let you know what I feel about you. And like Mike said, it's hard to build bridges back that you've done burnt when you can do things strategically. Bring back manufacturing. It's going to take time. It's not going to be overnight. Increase tariffs, but do it in a way to where it's slow, but it's steady and it's going towards a goal instead of I'm going to get it all back at once.
Yeah.
That just won't work.
Which I
and
think
you can end up isolating yourself.
I think the two biggest growth areas where America could really benefit in manufacturing would be alternative energy and also AI. But that's kind of double-edged swords because as we advance through AI, which we already had a show on it could potentially take away jobs. So, but that's something that I feel like we should be working with China on is the AI to make sure, like, we should be creating like a structure for one of how that should be governed, and we could be doing it together
for for us over here and them to where we all a bit. You see, think about it, Mike. That's what you just said. That's powerful.
I feel like that. Which China's already doing it. They're trying to develop Africa, right? Which Africa's not this backwards place that people tend to think, especially in Western society. I mean, there's a lot of developed countries and cities in Africa, but there are a lot of places that still aren't. So China has done a lot of investing in Africa, creating jobs, factories, manufacturing in Africa. So, I mean, we could be doing that as well, but we're not.
And you have to think, Mike, that one thing that everybody needs is the raw resources that some of these places have. That even makes it more, it even makes it to the point where it's even more important to be like, okay, have a business relationship, a good one. Because certain places have resources that are very valuable. I mean, more valuable than people think of gold. Okay, gold's valuable. Now it's getting to the point where they are creating these chips. They need all different kinds of rare earth minerals. All kinds of stuff. And these places have them. So to have and you got to think, everybody respected us. We were if you strategically go in, people don't have no problem. But when you start to back a person in the corner, then it gets difficult. And China's doing what they need to do to spread their self out.
Yeah. China, I mean, which everybody's got to has their own national needs, I mean, every country does, which I understand the argument for bringing manufacturing back to America. I do. I just don't know if that's possible without like prices going astronomically high, and what would the chain reaction be to that? Like,
even if it was, you got to think it's not. It's gonna take years and years. It's gonna take at least 10 years to get it to where I'm assuming the person has a ideal of how they want it to look. It's gonna take years. It's gonna take at least 10 years to get it to where you can sit back and say, well, okay, this is what I visioned, and then by that time it'll be a new administration. So you see the back and forth and back and forth. It really stunts growth.
Right, and that's the one benefit that China has over us, is because if they want to do something, it's like that's it, and that's what we're doing. Whereas us, every 4 years, there's a different party coming in, and we want to do this and we want to do that, and then we just keep going back and forth, and no progress is actually being made. So, but still, regardless, I know there's a lot of folks out here that I've heard throwing out where they want people to be a dictator, or like I've heard people say that they're okay with America turning into a dictatorship like China, but that's not what we need. That's not what we want.
And then you have to think, Mike, and I'm not saying, like I say, people, when you was talking earlier about communism, capitalism, socialism, all that, capitalism doesn't work like that. To do that is not part of capitalism. I mean, just in the way that I see it. The way that I see it is you should have elections. People should be able to be chosen to be the president, and not just one person, be the president forever. Because if things are not going right, the people should have a say-so in the change that comes about.
Absolutely. And which I personally, and this is getting into even more politics, but I believe, and this is my opinion, that the two-party system is outdated, and it's the biggest problem with America now, is there's only two parties. There's only two options. So it's win or take all. Whereas I believe that we would benefit more, which you mentioned capitalism in extreme. I mean, capitalism in extreme is when they have slavery, right? That's the worst of capitalism. Right? That's the worst. Yeah. But then you also have capitalism where they're exploiting labor and not paying people enough, and then not providing pensions, not providing health care, none of these things for the people.
And you talked about that earlier, about the big dogs getting extreme raises, and then the
little people not so much. Main Street is struggling, Wall Street's living good, high on the hog. And that's not sustainable in the long term, right? But then on the flip side, communism, we know that doesn't work. The government owning everything, it doesn't incentivize people to work hard, and that's a good thing. Which I think everything should be based on incentives. Like, the harder you work, the more you should get. I mean, I would like to see more companies offer profit sharing. Because if you went to your job every day and you knew that the harder you work, the more money your company made at the end of the year meant the more money you make, I think people would have more buy-in in what they're doing every day in their jobs. But you don't see that a lot. But that's considered socialism, right? For profit sharing of a company, which, I think in America, socialism gets a very negative connotation, and they try to lump it in with communism. It's not the same. America is a socialist country. We have Social Security, we have Medicare, we have these programs that are designed to help people, and it's everybody, because everybody can participate. So there are good things in socialism, but I think the two extremes, communism and capitalism, neither one of them work. So we need to be somewhere more in the middle.
When you have alternative visions constantly, then you standing still. You're not progressing anywhere. And that's what, like you said, when it's one party win and then the other party win, then you undo everything that the other party did. So you never really getting any momentum going. Yeah. And then when you get something to where somebody's an administration is really starting to burn bridges with people that you have relationships, or that you could have good relationships with.
Not just China. Good
right.
allies.
See that right there, now it's like, okay, permanent damage can be done. So even when somebody the other party gets in or whatever, the damage might be where you can't repair it. And that's why having a friend like China, a business friend, having allies, it's peaceful. Things are working, it's cohesive, everybody's progressing. I will say with America, one thing that I agree with, build military. Because if somebody does, get out of line. I think people need to know that.
But that's but a partnership between China and America, nobody's gonna mess around with
exactly.
us. Nobody would dare,
right?
Because people will try one of them. People might try China, they might try America, but they never would try both of them if they were joined together strong.
Could you imagine
those are the two
that?
biggest militaries on the planet Earth.
And you know why that why we could never be allies? It's ego. You see, instead of saying, let's be allies. Because if you think about everybody who is our ally, they're kind of considered under it. We take care of them. They're not equal. Everybody's equal, but just and so in looking at things. But then with this, the hardest relationship is when somebody is your equal. I can't tell you what to do. You can't tell me what to do. We have to, like you say, compromise. But those are the best relationships, because if you can get past all of that other stuff, like you said, you can have something going, a cohesive unit, a well-oiled machine. Everybody's happy. If the people's happy, things are going good, laws are being made. Because like you said, talking about Britain, their system is so good, you would think, well, why doesn't everybody just do it like that? That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of different systems, which, like I said, I will never agree with China's political system. I will never agree with Russia's political system, because you did mention if somebody good is the dictator, but it's like what's the saying? Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
So eventually they might start off good, but almost all of those leaders that start off good become corrupt in some kind of way. And you need a way to get rid of them, because that's why you have Putin in Russia. He's been there for 25 years now.
What you saying is right. Absolutely, dictatorship is not good. That example I was making would be so wishful. That's just wishful thinking.
In a perfect world. That's why I just want to clarify that. Right. In a perfect world, then yes.
But our system is just as bad, because things can change dramatically. Mm-hmm. Things could be going a good way. It
hasn't always been that way, though, because it's just been in the last say 15 years, maybe, starting with Obama, where we really started to have this really separation and like push against each other. Like, no, we're not, because before we used to have compromise. 50s, 60s, 70s even, we had compromise on a lot of things, and we were able to get things done. That's when America was building to become the superpower that we were. After World War II, we became a power because we worked together. We had the common interest of making America great. Now it's making the political party great.
And now I'll say this, because I don't like blaming things specifically, but if you think about it, what changed it? It was an individual. You see what I'm saying? Because everybody else, like you said, it's very few times where you hear people booing. People respected the office. People respected when things change. Maybe to somebody you might not like it, but you respected it. But now it's a lot of finger pointing and you either with me or against me. Because the times you talking about is where people respected. Okay, we changed. Or we gonna shake hands. It wasn't no not shaking hands, and it wasn't no talking about this person. It's a new thing. We trying to do a new thing. That mutual respect. Yeah. But once you get certain things going, it can stay like that. Where now, like you said, now it's the division. It didn't used to be like that. People respected people, and okay, you bowed down gracefully. If if things didn't go your way, you shook hands, and we all trying to do better. It was that type of aura. Yeah. But now it's like
it's become more divisive.
Different. Right.
People are more at each other's throats, and then they won't. It's like even when faced with facts, people won't change their opinions anymore. It's like we become a tribalist country where you're just going to stick with your tribe or your political party over anything else. No matter what they do, even when they do wrong stuff, I'm still going to stick with them because that's my tribe.
Yeah. And when you just want to do something because somebody else done it, meaning undo, like, Mike, you did this. Mm-hmm. Well, when I get it, I'm going to undo it just because you did it. See, that type of thinking is like, well, if it's good and Mike did it, well, that's a good thing. We keep rolling with that unless we can improve on it. I'm not going to just be spiteful just because you did it and you not down with me, then I'm going to try to undo it at any cost.
Yeah.
If it's good, it's good.
Yeah.
You know, you got to stick with it. And every time I mention something that I think is bad, I'm going to call your name out. I'm going to say, well, he did this, he did that, he did. That's that type of, that's a very childish way of looking at things.
Yeah. And I just keep coming back to thinking about how powerful a really close partnership with China would look like. Because I don't think we've ever really had it per se, but like, hypothetical world, obviously I'm not, but if I was the president of the United States, I would be in contact with China's leader almost on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Like having a phone conversation with him almost every day to, really strengthen the relationship between our countries, to make sure there's no miscommunications, to make sure that we're on the same page. And I think it's possible to have both countries' interests at heart and work together. I mean, you're going to have to compromise with each other, in some senses, but I absolutely believe that China could be a strong friend, a very potent friend. But like you said, be cautious at the same time. It's like what they say, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
Yes.
Is that the saying? Or did I mess it up?
Yes, because you have to make sure that people are doing things in good faith and not with ulterior motives.
Yeah.
So even if you are compromised with somebody, sometimes people can take it niceness, take your kindness for weakness. Oh, they compromising now. Also, we gon', and like you said, that's when espionage things like it, spy, all that. So you got to make sure that, okay, it's strictly business and everything's tight. It could be a beautiful relationship.
Yeah.
If you talk about it'd be a beautiful relationship. It wouldn't be a country that would want to upset the relationship between us and China.
If we had a strong, you wouldn't hear nothing about Russia, because if we were strong together with China, we would push Russia out. Because right now Russia's tighter with China than we are, and I think that's a bad thing for America to have those two partner together. That is not beneficial to the United States at all. So if I was in charge of the United States, I would be trying to put a wedge between China and Russia and trying to wedge America in there to where we become tight with China.
Exactly. That's why they come up with this new currency. These BRICS countries that they have
to counter the dollar.
And instead of looking at it like, okay, it's competing with the dollar, like you say, if you got a good relationship with somebody, you can ask them, well, what's going on? What do we need to do? Because you say, well, you want to keep the dollar powerful. Okay, well, the dollar's already powerful. It's the national reserve currency. So it can't be a change quick. It's gonna have to be slow. So probably I would think a lot of people don't really want to do it, but it's something they have to do because they tired of certain things. So then you just talk to people. You see, like I say, nobody. If we was with China, if China pulled out of that and they was like, okay, we have a good relationship with each other, I bet every one of them would say, well, there ain't no use to keep doing it. Because why would we want to upset China and America? They've done came together and they've agreed on something, so we all need to agree on it. Because if we don't, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Either way, I think it's a good thing to approach with kindness and good motives, but at the same time, I always stay cautious.
I think
who would upset
mutual
America
respect mutual respect because we're all humans and nobody likes to be disrespected, and I feel like because you got to respect the Chinese because for whatever, I mean they have developed so strong over the last 30 years. I mean what they're doing now is incredible. I mean you got to respect what they're doing, engineering wise, technological wise. Like you got to respect it. And if you don't respect the Chinese, then maybe you're just a racist. I think we should probably end on that money because otherwise we're gonna go down some other rabbit holes. But it sounds like we have come to a consensus that you and I both agree that China should be our friend rather than our foe.
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, I believe that.
And I'm right there with you, man. And I've been saying that for a long time actually, because. I actually background on me. I did study political sciences in college, and and that was one thing I I saw 25 years ago that China could potentially get powerful just based on how strong their economy was getting, how much trade, how much they were developing economically, and I said back then that China is going to be a player in the future, but yeah, they're powerful, and I don't think we should make enemies with them. I don't think it's a wise decision.
They built themselves up, and you have to respect it. It's not.
Gotta respect it. I
mean,
they did what we did.
They're
doing what we did, and how could you not respect a country that's capable of doing that? So mutual respect. So respect to my Chinese folks out there. Definitely.
I respect to all everybody everywhere. We talking about China and America, so specifically China and America, whatever side you on. In America we have the parties and we all believe different, but I want us to prosper as a unit. I want China to prosper as a unit, and I think if we could come together as a unit, we would be unstoppable.
And make no mistake, we love America as well. We want what's best for America. And I feel like what's best for America is a strong partnership with the Republic of China. So,
absolutely.
We're going to go ahead and end on that, y'all. We appreciate y'all tuning in. You know what to do.
Like, subscribe, and share. Peace out, y'all.
We out. Peace.
Duke money. Magic, Mike.